The U.S. and China have agreed to a 90-day temporary reduction in tariffs as trade talks continue. But tariffs and foreign retaliation are already hitting close to home for many. Financial analysts warn the trade war will hit lower and middle-income families the hardest. Let's get some more insight by turning to Ernie Tedeschi, Director of Economics at the Budget Lab at Yale. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, your group's report found that consumers face an overall average effective tariff rate of 17.8%, the highest in almost a century. What's the practical impact of that?
Yeah, so for the average American family, that translates to about $2,800 per year, every year, in lost purchasing power. But as you might imagine, it's not going to be the same for every family. Tariffs are a regressive tax. That's a fancy way of saying that they hurt working and lower income families more than they do higher income families. So while that $2,800 is, roughly a 1.7% loss in purchasing power overall, for lower income families, it's more like a 2.9% loss in purchasing power versus 1.2% for higher income families. So it's going to pinch working class families a lot more than it does other folks.
So let's talk about a term that I just learned about yesterday. Many people, of course, are cutting the extras, but the effect of these rising prices really being laid bare in what's called the Minimum Quality of Life Index. Explain that phrase for me and explore how low-income families really are struggling more.
Sure. So we like to think of the items and goods that families need to buy to live a decent life, essentially. And what families have, what lower and working class families have been doing in the past is they have often been buying imports, particularly from China, because imports have tended to be cheaper ways of getting quality goods. So that's what makes these tariffs particularly impactful for working class families. It's not just that working class families spend a higher share of their income than higher income families do and spend a higher share of their budget on imports. Right. It's that they're spending a higher share of their budget on Chinese imports in particular, because that's a way that they're able to sort of maintain the standard of living that they see elsewhere. So having higher tariffs on China is almost tailor-made to affect working class families.
It feels like this is happening overnight. Do you think there is a long-term, goal or practical effect of spurring American manufacturing?
So I definitely think that is the goal of the administration. Look, tariffs can be wielded in a lot of ways. They can be wielded narrowly. They can be wielded broadly. What we found at the Budget Lab is actually in the long run, manufacturing output in the United States does expand over, 10, 20 years as a result of this, as the result of these tariffs. Here's the thing, though, is that there's a trade-off. It crowds out, it cannibalizes the rest of the economy as a result. So yeah, manufacturing GDP goes up by about 1.5% over 10 to 20 years. But construction GDP falls by 3%. Farm GDP falls by 1% over that same time period, such that net, when you look at the overall economy, the U.S. economy as a whole is smaller overall by about 0.5%. So we're gaining a little bit on the manufacturing side, but we're more than losing in the rest of the economy.
All right. Fast developments. We're glad we're able to get a hold of you for this morning. Ernie Tedeschi, Director of the Economics Lab at the Budget Lab there at Yale. Thanks again for your insight.
Download Fox Local for more videos on demand.